Hi, good day, everyone. Today, we're here to discuss an amazing ingredient I discovered by accident about 3 years ago, attending a conference. We're going to be talking about Sibelius Sage. And in order to cover the material, we have two people from Sibelius Natural Products. We have Abigail Heaton, she's the global marketing manager, and Dr. Kieran Edwards, he's the chief science officer. And I want to thank you both for being here today and presenting. Truly, I have to say, at this very moment and for the last several years, it's been my number one ingredient to go to for cognitive health concerns. So please take it away, you guys.
So starting off, a little background about us. So at our core, we are a testing facility, and that's around our Chronoscreen platform. So that makes sure that we can understand with confidence the best ingredients from the best source. And over the years, we've had exceptional results on our Chronoscreen platform. And on the back of this, we have successfully launched 4 products, and they cover the cognitive, memory, focus, relaxation, sleep, men's health, heart health, and also immunity. So starting with a bit of a market overview around the brain health category and how it's evolved. So the brain health supplement market is valued at 7.2 billion, and predicted for the next 6 years is a compound annual growth rate of 8%. And in America, 1 in 4 aged over 50 are regularly taking brain health supplements. So we can see there is a large amount of demand here for brain health. And the World Health Organization have stated that there's 1 case of dementia every 3 seconds. So we can show there's a growing awareness here around mental wellness and what we can do to prevent it. And the effectiveness of these supplements are a key concern for our own consumers. So they want to know that what they're taking, they're actually going to feel the benefits. Would you both agree that when you take something, you want to be able to feel it?
Yeah, for me, it's always challenging when I consult with people who have health issues, and a lot of times in natural health, you can't feel anything working. If you take an immune supplement, it's really hard to know it's working unless you're like 6 months down the road. You're like, hey, I haven't had a cold in a while, or something along those lines. But yeah, so if you can feel it working, that really goes a long way.
So yeah, exactly. That's exactly what our consumers are after. So in terms of what they're actually looking for, so what benefits are they looking to be able to feel instantly? So they want to know that their attention and focus is being improved, their memory is enhancing, they're sleeping better, their mood's improving, their stress is less. And we can see this straight through from studying to in the workplace through to our mental wellness as we age. And what's really interesting here is the fastest growing sector here is around our mood and improving our mood. So on the back of the research, so just introducing our Sibelius Sage. So this is a scientifically evidenced, clinically proven supplement for brain health and cognitive and mental wellness. And the first point up here we've got is fast acting. So we can feel it working within the hour. And I don't know if, David, if you've tried it, would you agree?
Yeah, actually, I took some about 35 minutes ago because for me, when we're doing this, it's morning, and I'm not a caffeine person, so I like to take it when I need to be sharp, and I took a stick pack, so no capsule to dissolve, and I could feel it within probably the first 20 to 30 minutes after taking it. Thank you, by the way. Nothing worse than not being sharp doing something like this, so thank you.
And that's the feedback we're getting from our consumers. So please let us know if you want to see. We've got a PDF on all of our feedback, but consumers really do love it. So just one quote we've got here is, "This product energizes my mind and keeps me sharp." And it is clinically proven with a distinctive source. So Kieran will go into the clinically proven aspect in a second.
I want to just chime in on that. You can keep this slide, but the one thing that I find is that we often going back to your point of can you really feel it? The issue with we'll call it mental wellness is there's 3 basic areas that people are concerned with, and in all honesty, they're all interconnected. So stress, sleep, and cognition are all the main mental wellness concerns. And if you're not sleeping well, it can affect my cognition. And if I'm stressed out, it can affect my sleep and my cognition. But if I'm having questions about cognition, and you mentioned that 1 in 4 people over 50, I'm 57, so I fall in that category. And yes, I am that consumer. And So it's nice to see an ingredient that's, and I know Kieran's going to talk about the clinical part of it, that we know actually it shows a positive effect in that mental wellness category, because I feel like that's the largest category coming down the road.
Yeah, completely. So having a look at the source, I mentioned before, Chronoscreen, it allows us to select the best ingredients from the best source. And that's exactly what we've done with our sage. And this has allowed us to have full traceability. So here we've got a very sustainable source of sage in a field in the UK, which is specifically harvested. It's a specific strain, and we have full control over this. So handing over to Kieran.
Yeah, thank you, Abigail. And I guess just to labour that point we're just making about the proprietary source and the importance of that, we all know that natural products, there are variabilities between one sage extract and the next, one blueberry extract and the next, whatever it happens to be. The cultivar, the environment it's grown in, has a major impact on the chemistry that's going to be present there. So we, as Abigail mentioned, really core to Sibelius is taking our time to make sure we pick the right source. So we want to make sure we've got a good, active, robust source that time on time is going to have those same effects for the consumer. So our first stage is this patented Chronoscreen approach that has been mentioned. And essentially there, it's just a nice catch-all screen using longevity, lifespan in a model organism, a small free-living worm called C. elegans. That helps us just generally see if the ingredient is having beneficial effects on cellular health and aging in the process, which then we know should translate to other beneficial effects, given that age is this major risk factor for so many human conditions. So we use this first screen just to identify active ingredients, and then particularly good, robust sources of those active ingredients that perform really well. And then to take it on from there, we obviously want to understand, okay, we know the ingredient is active, but what is it doing? So the next stage is our molecular phenotyping stage, where we're using readouts, typically from human cells, so changes in expression of genes and proteins, and asking the question, what is the ingredient doing? How is it? What is the mechanism of action that might be at play here? So we'll go through that process, understand some mechanisms of actions, and then follow that up by validating these potential mechanisms of action to get a good understanding of the type of activities our extract has got, which really helps us get to the final stage, which, as a consumer, obviously you want to see there's clinical data. You want to see that it's being tested in people and they get the benefits, because, as we talked about, the consumer wants to feel the benefits, but they also want the confidence that there's clinical studies done there correctly that demonstrate the benefits as well. So really going through that process allows us to best design those studies.
The one thing I wanted to add, as a person who also helps companies formulate, new cutting edge, finished products for consumers, that mechanism of action and being able to validate it is critical, in my opinion, because granted, we know Sibelius sage is great by itself, and you're going to talk about that in the studies, but the reality is that it's also great when you can combine it with other ingredients that maybe have a differing mechanism of action, but for the same basic health issue. And that way you're approaching that health challenge from multiple angles, and you're going to have much more success with that product, and the consumer's going to be more loyal to continuing to use the product because you've taken that approach.
No, thank you. So it's a very good point. Thank you for raising it. You're exactly right there. Understanding what the mechanism of action play is, really, like you say, helps you understand if there's complementary ingredients you can put together to attack the health area from different angles, so that the consumer gets the maximal benefits. So that's a very good point. Yeah. So as I say, we go on through to the clinical validation. So if we take the example of sage, and we'll look at the next slide here, we've started looking at these potential mechanisms of action. And some of these are things that have been known for a while for salvia, for various sage species, because it's got a long history of medicinal use in herbal medicine. And clearly people are aware of these anti-inflammatory effects that have been occurring, and we've done studies now to demonstrate that our extract has these anti-inflammatory effects and can knock down levels of inflammation markers in human cells. And the reason we think that the anti-inflammatory effects are important towards mental health and wellness is that there's a growing body of evidence out there of the importance of inflammation as a key risk factor for various different endpoints in human health, ranging from cardiovascular but all the way through to cognitive impairment. So having lower levels of peripheral inflammation in there should really feed through to improving, having lower levels in the brain, which will then have beneficial effects on the health of our brain and how it performs. And particularly, it will affect things like blood flow to the brain through the elasticity of our vasculature, for instance, which will be impacted by high inflammation. So that's one area where there's previous knowledge, and we've built on that with specific studies on our SAGE in data that's being published. Another area which is probably more relevant to the fast-acting benefits, I think that the anti-inflammatory is there may be some quick benefits, but it's more of a long-term benefit you're going to get from there. But in terms of more rapid benefits, probably another mechanism which has been known about for a little while is cholinergic properties. So in particular, we see that there's an inhibition of enzyme which usually breaks down the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Now, that's an important neurotransmitter for multiple things, particularly memory in this instance is critical there. So again, that's data that was known about before, but we've now, in more recent research, discovered that it's affecting other neurotransmitters as well, in particular a class of monoamines, which include dopamine and serotonin. Now, these are usually kind of referred to as the feel-good hormones, but they play very important roles in memory and focus and attention as well. So we're seeing different activities across these areas, and as Abigail alluded to and yourself, David, in terms of the kind of benefits the consumer wants to see, touching on memory and focus. This is really a key area that we're getting activities and certain mechanisms coming out from our SAGE extract, which will play right into those areas. And as we can see when we move into clinical studies on the next slide, we've conducted those having an understanding of what the benefits are, what the mechanisms are. We can start seeing how that relates to the benefits we're seeing in the consumer. So in particular, the first study we did was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover study of the SAGE in older adults. So their age range 65 to 90 in this study. And essentially they were given each of 4 different doses of SAGE or placebo with weekly washout periods in between. So they got to take all the different dosages and then we could compare their performance, their cognitive performance, on a set of computer-based tests that probe different aspects of cognitive performance and allowed us to get an insight into where the benefits are occurring. And this, I guess, to really reiterate here, and as we touched on the immediacy of action that we talked about before, we're looking at a single dose here and then following up with time points, between 1 and 6 hours after being given the dose. And you can see from the next slide, when we look at the data, some of the data from this first study, what we're looking at here is charts on charts A and B. Chart A is looking at secondary memory performance, which is memory is kind of split into different areas. You've got your working memory, which is where you're holding information and doing calculations on it, for instance, in your brain actively. And then there's secondary memory, which tends to be the longer term memory. And we're seeing big improvements in secondary memory performance and the tasks that the older adults are being given. And if we look at the chart there, what you're comparing is the performance versus their baseline performance. Essentially, they're tested with a computer-validated test at a baseline, they take the supplement or the placebo, and then they're tested again at 1, 2.5, 4, and 6 hours after having taken that single dose. And you can see the placebo in the open circles there, we get an immediate fall off in performance versus the baseline. Whereas the 333 milligram dose at stage in the study essentially kept that performance at the same level as at baseline. So you see negligible fall off performance compared to baseline. And this fall off from baseline is influenced by lots of different factors, circadian things playing into it. So this is a repeatable factor that we've seen, but you're really preventing that fall off with the SAGE being taken there. It's about a 30% improvement in the secondary memory task, which is quite significant.
Excellent. Two things I want to point out that really stand out on this slide to me is one, the improvement within 1 hour of administration. And if I remember in our previous conversations that was either a tablet or a capsule.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So, you can just see right there, that's a pretty rapid. And then the other part that's always important to me in different facets of my career is really knowing the effective dose. What is the effective dose, and then making sure that I know that when I'm recommending something that in this case the ideal dosage, and this chart really clearly shows it, 333 milligrams. And if I do that, I should expect perhaps to feel and notice the change within 1 hour. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And when people often take nutritional supplements, and there are companies out there who do skimp. I'm not talking about like I'm talking about finished product companies. They'll skimp. They'll take a botanical that has research, but they'll use half of it because the consumer recognizes the name but doesn't realize that they're not getting the full efficacious dose. So it's really nice to see that you at Sibelius Natural Products dialed in on exactly, hey, this is really how much you need to take, and this is what you can expect. And that's to me, that's priceless information as a healthcare provider, and as a consultant as well.
No, agree. I think that's a great point. And just to build on that point even further, what we're looking at here is the specific dose of our specific extract. As we touched on, there's going to be a lot of variation between one extract and another extract. And obviously, what we're talking about here is we've dialed into the Sibelius Sage extract. This is the perfect dose for the consumer to take with that. And time on time, we can see that we've got that robust, reproducible extract because it's coming from the same source, going through the same processes.
Very good point to add there, Kieran, because you're right. I'm actually writing an article for a global publication, and it's on, the topic is actually on where your botanicals grown and how it's grown matters. And in this case, Sibelius Sage is actually one of those ingredients I'm including in the article, just because you have the science behind it to prove, like, hey, if it's grown in this specific area and we've done the testing, and then we do the specific extract and all the way down through the whole process, that this is what you can expect to have happen. So I'm glad you added that. This is Sibelius Sage. It's not the sage you're taking out of your cupboard to use to cook as a spice. This is a very unique area where it's grown. And I'll let you keep going. I get chatty sometimes.
No, it's a good interlude there. I think it's a point worth making. So thank you for jumping in with that. I think just the other point here, the chart B we're looking at here is showing the data in the same way, but in this case we're looking at accuracy and speed of attention. So it's again, so we're getting memory benefits, but we're also getting accuracy of attention benefits, the ability to really focus on that task that's occurring there. So it's really nice areas, and two areas touched on as being really of interest to consumers. We've got nice clear benefits in older adults. So we wanted to go on and show, obviously, as Abby touched on at the start, aging is important, cognitive aging is in there, but younger people have interest in their cognitive performance as well, whether that's going through from studies or professional life. We all want to be able to get the top of our game mentally. So we've gone on from the older adult study and completed another study in younger adults, which we can show on the next slide, a brief sort of introduction on that. Again, in this case, we're looking at younger adults. So we're looking at 18 to 24-year-olds in this chart here. And what you can see, one of the tasks that actually showed really strong benefits in the older adults was an immediate word recall task, which is probing the secondary memory element. And again, we see a really nice improvement versus the placebo for 2 doses. We only tested the lower range dose for the Sage because, as you saw, David, we dialed in on being the right kind of dose range from the initial study. So we wanted to test the 2 doses that had showed significant effects before. And what you can see here is, again, the placebo in this case in the closed squares, showing that fall off 1 hour post the single dose being taken, whereas the subjects in this case maintain that flat line again. So it's a very similar pattern that we're seeing in younger versus the older adults. Now, we compare it, I think we see broader benefits in older adults, but there's still benefits to be had for the younger adults. Not surprising, we're not seeing as good benefits in young, healthy brains, but there we go. But there's still room for improvement, I guess, which is good to see. And then, I think if we move on from there, then I will hand you back over to Abigail, and she can carry on.
Thank you, Kieran. That was great information. You kept it nice and tight, very succinct. And obviously, if people want to learn more, they can definitely reach out to you all
Sure.
for the deeper dive. How about that?
Sounds good. No, we're more than happy to.
Perfect. So having a look at our delivery format. So it can be manufactured into a wide range, as you can see here. So we have the traditional applications of tablets, capsules, powder blends, and some things that we're really actually excited to share with you all today is drinks, jellies, oral sprays, and even chocolate bars. So there's so much possibility with our Sage. And just looking on the screen here, we've also got a few customer testimonials. So read one out to you now. I found out about this product from a friend and I've already referred to. And I just think that just shows how much people are finding this product really works and how they're so excited about the product that they're sharing it to their friends.
Well, and I want to chime in on that, Abigail, because I was actually a speaker at an event where Sibelius Natural Products had a speaker as well. And it was more of a super scientific type of an event, and there were little stick packs of the powder sitting on the table for people to try, and I took my cold glass of water and poured it in and took it right away. And it was one of those things, like I said earlier, in this broadcast, that I felt something working in me within 25, 30 minutes, which was really cool, because I went like an hour after that speaker finished, and it's just nice to know that there's all those. I mean, there's probably not a format or a delivery method that you can't use, and which one of the things I preach at conventions all over the world is that consumers are really tired of, we have pill fatigue, capsules and tablets. So and that's actually that's what they call it now, pill fatigue. And the nice thing is to know that with Sibelius Sage, you've got the opportunity to avoid pill fatigue and use so many different formats to get that daily dose in so that you can stay sharp.
Yeah, definitely. From healthy snacking to a functional beverage, it can go into a wide range of formats. So just looking at some of the key aspects that developers find appealing when working with our product. So first of all, our extraction process ensures the naturally occurring bioactives are preserved. And also, being a natural ingredient, it is standardized to 2.5% rosmarinic acid. And that herbal flavor is so easily masked. And what we can see from the different formats, so whether it's going into a drink with citrus or going into a chocolate bar, we've found that masking the sage flavor is something that's really easy with our Sage. And we've also got a long shelf life, which is really appealing to the manufacturers.
Karen, I want to bring you back into this. When we've had previous discussions about Sibelius Sage, and I pointed out the standardization to rosmarinic acid, and you made a really good comment on, Sibelius Sage isn't just because of rosmarinic acid, because rosmarinic acid is in a lot of other botanicals. But can you go tell the rest of that story? Because I found it's something that's very important, because I feel like when people look at that standardization, they think, oh, well, that's what makes it work. Yeah. And in this case, that's not necessarily the truth.
No, exactly. We can oversimplify the message there if we come just to that. And the point here is, we're talking about an extract with hundreds, thousands of different chemical entities in it at different abundances. Now, we standardized to rosmarinic acid for one reason. We know that it does have roles that are related to the modulation of the enzymes I talked about in the modulation of neurotransmitters. So, we think rosmarinic acid is important and contributing, but it's not playing on its own. We know that there's other phenolic acids in there that are going to be contributing towards these activities. So we use the rosmarinic acid more as a benchmark or something to say, okay, right, if we can control this, then the rest of the biochemistry is going to be in the same kind of range that it needs to be in to be having that activity. Because it's not one player, it's a whole orchestra.
Yeah, exactly. That's my favorite analogy, is it's an orchestra. And and that's one of the benefits I find, and I'm getting more and more into being the herbal pharmacist and going back to botanicals, because I've found so many of these entities that have been pulled out of the plant, and now they almost have made a drug out of it, as opposed to the real botanical. And there's a lot of other components, whether it's nutritional or other phytochemicals that will play an important role in that orchestra. If you start pulling things out, I feel like you've decreased really the full benefits of why you want to use a botanical. So I'm glad we had time to discuss this. So thank you.
No, it's great. And obviously, if you can reduce it down to a single compound, it's much easier to manage, manufacture, and control. But clearly, there's other things in there which are contributing towards the benefits. If you
Definitely.
just took the same dose of rosmarinic acid on its own, you wouldn't get the same benefit that we see from the sage extract. I think that'll be a very good prediction you're going to make there. So yeah, the whole orchestra is important.
Awesome.
So just to recap, looking at our sage, it's fast acting. We have proof that our customers love it. It's clinically proven and a distinctive source. So David, if you have any questions for us.
Yeah, actually, I have a few. I think actually I had to write them down, everybody. So I apologize if I'm not looking at you. I think one of them we already answered, and how quickly can someone feel the effects? And I feel like based on your studies that I'd say the 1 hour mark would be the right answer. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first time point we've assessed in the clinical setting. When you anecdotally speak to people, like you mentioned, they're feeling it, quicker than 1 hour. I think in that 20 to 30 minute range, people start feeling the effects from there. So yeah, but I think you're right. It's the answers there.
And this question dovetails right into that one. And how long would I end up expecting to feel the effect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I guess you saw from the clinical study, the first study we did, the effects were within an hour, and they were maintained for up to, they were still seeing significant benefit at the 6 hour time point, which is quite remarkable. You get this immediate effect, but nice long lasting one. So you can take a single dose and feel a benefit for multiple hours on there. In the follow-up study in the younger adults, the time, we still saw the immediacy effect. It wasn't lasting for as long, so you're back kind of at the baseline of the placebo levels within a few hours. But yeah, so clearly there's dynamic depending on age, but up to 6 hours at least, I think is a good kind of idea on how long you can feel the benefits from. Again, it's a single dose. This isn't taking it an hour and then another one an hour later, whatever. It's just one single dose.
And which would carry me over in my work day,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think I work a normal 8 hour workday anyway, but it would carry me through my workday. Or, I think of students like my daughter, who's a senior in college, university, that she doesn't need something to work 24 hours. And
No.
so, you really just need it to work while you're awake is how I look at it.
Well, this is exactly, you don't want it to start interfering with the sleep patterns either, because as we touched on, sleep is of interest to consumer, and it will also feed back to our college performance as well. So yeah, definitely, and we don't see any effect on problems with sleep with the sage. So
right.
It's good.
I think we kind of answered this one, but do you get the same effect whether you take a capsule or in a drink mix?
Yeah. Well, again, the clinical studies have been, as you mentioned, Dave, that there were pills or capsules. We've had a lot of people taking the different formats. You first tried it as the drink mix, didn't you? And you felt
it was a powder. I put it into a cold glass of water. I was surprised it actually was dispersible. I was shocked. I was like, this is going to be like making tea out of tea leaves and leaving them in there, but it wasn't like that. It was actually it was quite good.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, some of those can taste really good with the drink formats on there. But yeah, like you said, so we're getting good response from multiple different formats. So I think you should expect to see as good a response, and potentially you might even see a faster response with the drink formats because you haven't got to wait for the capsule to be dissolved and digested, etc. So
and this sort of fits into the same conversation, but do you get the effect just the first time you try it, or will I still continue to feel something if I'm taking it on a daily basis? I mean, what are you seeing at Sibelius Natural Products?
Yeah, so what we're hearing is from people that are getting the benefits time on time. Take it, acute benefits, and take it again, you get the same benefits, which is obviously good to hear. The clinical study we did was the crossover design. So they were, we've got evidence there that the consumer taking that, because they took the multiple doses on there, they ended up taking several doses of sage at different levels, obviously, but again, benefits being shown at the right dosage range in that set. So again, there's more support that reproducible benefit will be gained if you keep taking the product. But I think, yeah, the key thing for us is that consumers keep coming back and buying it because they feel those effects.
And then the last thing, just these all just fit right together. It was perfect. Just remind everybody what the dose is that's recommended for Sibelius Sage.
Yeah, so I think, as you saw, the optimal dose from the clinical studies that we had was the 333 milligram dose from the original one. So I think, yeah, that's the best dose that we can see and have confidence in consuming.
Excellent. And Abigail, I know you have one more slide with contact information. That kind of wraps up the questions that I had that are very common. I do get those because, like I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of education, but I also do a lot of consulting for companies that are looking at putting together cutting edge products. And that's all. These are the questions I feel like not only do I get from a consumer, but also from people that are doing R&D or sales and marketing, whatever realm they're in. So this wraps up our discussion. Would either one of you like to add any more to this before I tell everybody to have a great night or a great day or whatever time of day they're watching this?
No, I think, we've touched on it, people want that near immediate benefit to their cognitive performance, that sort of picking up in place of caffeine, just as you suggested there, one application for it, then please do consider Sibelius Sage and get in touch with us for any more information you want.
Awesome. Well, thanks both to you and Abby for being a part of this today. Thanks for asking me to host it. I like having a little fun, so hopefully we kept it light for everybody. Again, if you need more information, please do reach out to Sibelius Natural Products for more information. They didn't ask me for this endorsement, but again, I learned about it as a guest, a speaker at a Lunch and Learn. And just ironically, one of the speakers was talking about Sibelius Sage, and I was very blown away, not only by just the science, but I was blown away by my own personal experience in taking one single dose. And I was like, woo, yeah, this is good. And it's not caffeine, which is the best part, because I have an issue with hypertension, and caffeine and I are enemies to each other. So thank you very much to both of you again. And I wish everybody a happy and pleasant day.